Hi, welcome to this week's edition of Blue Talk. We're again, John, Dave, myself. We're going to look back over Ireland's defeat against England. All the other Six Nations games. Look forward to the Pro 12 games this coming weekend, and of course look back over the other Pro 12 matches. So let's get the Irish one out of the way first. 21-10 defeat against England in Twickenham.
Yeah, it wasn't great. It was one of those cure-it-egg type of games. Like we did really well in the first half. We were bloody lucky though. They should have scored.
We were winning
a few times.
with 20 minutes to go.
We were also winning with. I was coming to that. In the second half, we managed to get ahead of them by scoring a try. We'd another try disallowed and another one fumbled over the line. So there
were there.
There were chances out there, which is quite heartening when you consider. For example, we've been banging on about obviously the loss of Darcy and O'Driscoll left a big gaping wound in the centre, which never really got filled properly before the World Cup. Then a massive gaping wound of Paul O'Connell missing out of your pack, and all the other luminaries that are just injured and not retired. Sean O'Brien, Peter O'Mahony, the list is endless. Henderson, so considering all of those things, it wasn't the end of the world, but still, losing to England and Twickenham is never nice. And we kind of tackled ourselves to a standstill a little bit in the first half. So while we still had, we didn't run out of steam or anything like we used to do in the 90s, but we just didn't have that intensity in the tackling late on to keep them out. And they did get in they outflanked us for 2 late tries. But all in all, disappointing, but you can see progress. To have guys like Ultan Dillane, who I think I was saying earlier this season, he's just bulked up hugely this year, and Jesus, he didn't look out of place.
I was first to call him Connacht's answer to Ian Henderson.
Yeah, I mean, imagine the two of them in the second row together at some point in the next few years. And Josh van der Fleer didn't look at it. Okay, he didn't set the world completely on fire, but geez, he stepped.
He nearly got a try. I mean, that was.
He stepped straight.
Looking at it through green shaded glasses, it looked like a try.
Impressive.
His tackling stats are impressive, and he stepped straight into an international shirt in a Six Nations game against England and Twickenham, and didn't look even slightly out of place.
Well, that's it. I mean, you look at it this way: the worst you could say about him was he was okay, and that's, as you say, against England in an understrength team. Again, in Twickenham. I mean, I'll take that on Day of the Week. Yeah, I mean...
I was disappointed with... Like, the new guys came in and played well, but some of the more experienced heads, I thought, had poor games. He's a poor game. I thought Rob Kearney was poor again, and I thought Murray was... Okay, got a try, but Murray, some of his box kicking was really not on the money. It just kicked... It wasn't... The kicks weren't long enough to put them under any pressure, and they weren't short enough to give us a chance to challenge it. And it was those kind of guys that you want to stand up, especially when there's 3 debutants there. When Mike Ross came off, I thought the scrum just disintegrated. And most worryingly of all was our line out. We just malfunctioned when we had very, good attacking positions, particularly in their 22, when we were just turned over. Like, we just didn't seem to be capable of being clinical enough or nasty enough to win those balls.
I think the problem I think part of the problem with the line out is, I mean, it's an ever changing cast. I mean, there is no consistency because there's no consistency of fitness. Guys are getting injured all the time. Have we put the same units out 3 matches in a row? I don't think so, or even 2 matches in a row.
Plus, would you combine Ryan and Toner generally if everybody was fit?
You probably wouldn't.
They'd probably be more similar.
Yeah,
in some ways,
they're 2 guys you'd probably have as the same guy. And then I think I have to say, I don't think the captaincy has done Rory Best any favours. Yeah. Because I'm always loath to blame a hooker for a line out failure, because there are at least 4 elements to a line out. There's the lift, there's the jump, there's the throw, and then there's whatever the opposition are doing. So you can control 3 of them. But if so blaming one guy for every line out flaw is
he's
completely
the most
inaccurate.
visible.
He is the most visible, and sometimes it is the guy's fault. I mean, and sometimes it's the jumper's fault, and sometimes but sometimes it's the thrower's fault. I just think that it's I don't know if it's a fluke that Ireland's line out, which was pretty much rock solid, has suddenly disappeared as soon as the captaincy arrived on Rory Best, because beforehand he did have yips. He had bad days at lineouts in the past before he grew into the experienced player he is. And the other side of that, of course, is, to be fair to him, I mean, his player on the field is just superb. I mean, he is brilliant. He's essential to us.
Yeah, no, he's great on the breakdown. He's great. He's a lot of good stuff to his game, but like you say, maybe the captaincy hasn't done him a favour in terms of he's having to. He does. I mean, I'm not saying he's useless captain or he's not used to captaining or anything like that. I'm just saying that maybe it's an added weight that and because there's a bit of a seniority void. There's not like, I mean, O'Mahony, O'Connell, O'Driscoll, all of these guys who would have been, if they weren't captaining, they'd be virtual captains or vice captains or whatever. They're all gone, so he's the only guy now. He's got maybe Heaslip, Rob Kearney's a bit of a leadership role, but outside of that, there aren't too many. There's a lot of Indians there and not enough Chiefs, maybe. But the other thing you have to mention really is there's a guy on Leicester fans who coined this phrase about Bundy Aki, but Billy Vunipola, he's like a transit van in shorts. I mean, he really is. He's so hard to stop, and I'd say he ground down a lot of the people who had to tackle him. In the first half they were still able to, but as things wore on, that's got to take it out of you.
Yeah.
Having that thing hit you, having that transit fan hit you repeatedly over and over.
I mean, we've
at least he's up against his first cousin this week.
Teams have come up against players like him before, or in similar mode to him before, and have found out ways to deal with it. We weren't able to do it, to create situations where A, he couldn't get the ball, or B, he got the ball in our terms. We weren't able to, and that was the flaw. The flaw wasn't that he was doing things that are brilliant. If you let him get up ahead of steam and run at you, then he's going to do that.
He can take the ball standing still and still.
He can do a certain amount of damage, but we weren't doing that. We weren't making him take the ball standing still.
If he's got his own, if he's getting the ball at number 8's and his scrum,
he's got a few paces.
He's going forward. Yeah. He's taking the ball, and it means that you're defending on your heels.
Yeah.
I mean, the minute Mike Ross went off, our scrum just disintegrated. Mm-hmm. But even up to that point, it was steady at very best. Sometimes it went nudge back, but you couldn't say that our scrum is an attacking.
We didn't put him under any pressure at the back of the scrum whatsoever. I mean, and it's a guy. He's a guy who I've often queried or wondered about his
fitness.
No, not his fitness. His skills at the back of a scrum that isn't dominant. I've often wondered what it would be like, because he doesn't look like a guy who's got that. Who'd be able to, like, I couldn't see him controlling the ball with one foot while pushing with that
say he's no Zinzambrook.
No, I wouldn't say so.
No, but he has other attributes.
But look, we never even got close to putting him under pressure, or putting his skills under pressure, because that's where guys make errors. It's when you put their core skills under pressure. We never got close to doing that.
That's true.
So, and as you say, the reason for that is because once Mike Ross went off, our scrum was shot. I mean, tight head prop is still the most important position on the field, no matter what you say. We could have lived with the lineouts if it hadn't been for the scrums, that kind of a way. Now, how you go about that, I don't know what else you could do. I mean, Tyke Furlong was injured to a certain extent. Marty Moore is injured. Nathan White was next cab on the rank. I mean, there isn't anyone else there. There wasn't a whole lot
Tom
you could
Court?
do. No.
Rodney Ayew.
I mean, well, that's what you're down to, So I think we did as well as he could be expected. But you see, the thing is, although the result looks bad and elements of the performance weren't great, there were elements of it that were good as well. I mean, like you say,
some positivity.
We crossed the English line 3 times now. Only one of them counted, but and maybe only one further of them may have counted. But we created opportunity. The opportunities were there. I mean, there's been a criticism of the Irish team that it isn't even creating opportunities. You couldn't say that.
Well, we also ran the ball an awful lot, even from our own 22.
Guys, ineffectually though. A lot of poor passes, fella having to stop, jump in the air to catch it, nearly pirouette.
Too many errors, all right,
yeah. It's a weird thing, actually, isn't it, when you think about it? I mean, we were saying last year under Matt O'Connor how the skills had declined, and we're kind of putting the blame
reaping what we sow.
But now the skills are still declining.
Yeah, but
there's something wrong in training within the Irish rugby sphere, and it's not just Leinster players, it's not just Munster players. There seems to be a drop off in skill.
Connacht players, they're flying.
Well, they're the ones who are spending big money on, not Pat Lam, Dave Ellis.
Get Pat Lam and Dave Ellis in to coach all the other provinces as well.
But
for a few weeks,
there's guys who we know are better footballers than what they're putting out on the pitch at the moment. But at the same time, you have to look. We were looking for progress. We went out with a team that was relatively inexperienced in terms of things, and we got progress. I mean, CJ Stander played well again. Obviously, we've spoken about Josh Van der Fleer. I think McCluskey started off poorly, put in a good stint in the middle, and then tired.
Yeah,
I think that'd be a fair way of started off not poorly, nervously.
Yeah.
When he did carry and he had the ball under his arm, he did very well. I mean, he made some great inroads in yards. Like, you know, he's probably twice the size that Darcy was, but he was like Darcy insofar as he was punching.
After a while, he forgot about the occasion and just did what he did best and just played rugby. And
but like, he's only in his very early 20s, and he's playing in front of 80,000 in Twickenham. You know, by far the biggest crowd I'm sure he's ever.
I mean, you're talking about two. I mean, two of those guys. I mean, for the next 10 years, our three centres are probably going to be those two guys plus Ringrose,
and Bundyaki maybe.
And Bundyaki maybe once he moves to Munster. So it's going to be. It's going to be. It's going to be interesting to see what happens in terms of, because they're going to be the go-to guys for the next decade or so. Even if it is the four of them, right? And you chuck Luke Marshall in those. I mean, we've always used look at the number of players we've had to use this year.
I think that he will possibly play a bit safe with Payne again. Maybe not against Italy, but.
Well, his comments were non-committal at best about McCluskey after the match, which I thought was a bit unfair. But anyway,
I can see him because there are so many other areas of the team that need looking at, you know, that the fact that he pinned his hopes on Payne and Henshaw, and also the fact that Henshaw is moving to Leinster, where he's presumably going to play 12 with Ringrose outside him, will probably make it less likely that Henshaw will play 13 for Ireland. So maybe you'll have stuff like Henshaw and McCluskey vying for the 12 jersey, and
Aki and Ringrose.
Aki, maybe next season it'll still be Payne, and after that maybe Aki and Ringrose. You know, so I mean, there's four centres that a lot of teams would
maybe you have to take a
be
bit
very
of short-term Pain for
short-term Pain. That's his name, isn't it?
We can't take short-term Pain. I mean, nobody knows, and people have asked the question.
Jared Payne,
nobody knows when the seedings for the World Cup are going to be announced. It was initially going to be this Christmas. Then it was pushed back a year. Then it was pulled back in, and World Rugby have been asked by a number of media outlets today to confirm, and they've refused to do so.
It would take I think it would take a very unusual set of results. I don't think Scotland or Italy are going to beat Ireland in the Aviva Stadium.
I hope not.
Well, maybe they will, but anyway.
Well, not if we pick the right team, we won't.
But it could be a chance to try and bring some more younger guys through, because you're not going to get much of a chance between now. Like you're talking, you mentioned the games there: 3 against the Springboks, 2 against the All Blacks, Australia, and I don't know, Georgia or Namibia or someone in
the other side of that is the only matches that we can pick up points in to secure our position in 8th
is the Southern Hemisphere,
is Scotland and Italy.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. Because if we don't beat them, because that's
but
not so much what we gain, but what they'll lose.
But you got to think that those. Like, I'm not talking about playing an experimental 15. I'm talking about bringing in 1 or 2 more additions. I'm talking about perhaps giving Ringrose an opportunity.
That might have.
Like, I'm not saying we're going to bring through some under 20s or give Cathal Marsh a start. You know what I mean? I'm not saying
more
that.
ridiculous things have been said. No, I
Didn't
don't think
Tony
so.
Ward say Billy Dardis should start for Ireland there a couple of seasons ago? There you go.
People will always see the shiny new thing and want it straight into the highest level possible straight away, and it's not always the right thing to do. I mean, I'd wonder why. What has Joe seen in Ringrose that he hasn't called him up already?
But he was kind of, he mentioned,
because I think he's ready actually as hands.
He mentioned at the start of this campaign that these games weren't particularly, like these games, i.e. the 3 tough ones, weren't the ones that you're going to risk him in. Now, I think if you're vying for a championship or a Grand Slam, then you're probably not going to change your squad too much, or you're going to bring in new blood into it. But if you're kind of at this stage, we're out of it. Okay, you still have to win those games, of course, but you're not making wholesale changes. And to bring in and to give your man the opportunity of getting the first cap in.
If it's going to happen, it's going to be Italy.
Yeah,
you know, because Scotland are playing quite well. So, and plus it's the last game. But if anybody's going to be tried anywhere, and you also have to see what's happening with injuries. You know, is Sean O'Brien coming back? I know Payne's coming back. He's already been past fit today for.
Apparently, he did a full session today.
With the medics, not with the team, but still. So that probably makes it look a little bit less likely if they're hyping the fact that he's going to be back to So unless he's going to replace Rob Kearney at full back, and then where are you putting McCluskey? Where are you putting, Ringrose? I'd find it surprising if he went for Ringrose. I'd like to see it. The reason I don't think he's played him is he just is that little bit slight and that little bit young. Like, he's got everything. He's brilliant. He's got the skills. He's got everything going for him. And even though he's slight, he's tough and wiry. But international rugby is, even in Heineken Cup rugby, you've always got 2 or 3 kind of mullockers playing against you, whereas in international rugby you've none. Even
again, with the exception of the 2 Welsh guys, the big beast centre seems to have fallen out of favour. I mean, actually,
Never fallen out of favour.
Scotland have 2 of the bigger ones in terms of the likes of, Bennett's a big guy.
Is he?
Yeah, he's a big guy. But in terms of, like, we're talking about in terms of, say, Ringrose been small. I mean, would he be any smaller than the English centres? They're not huge men. I mean, Farrell and
Farrell's tough as well.
No, he's hard, but I'm not saying they're not big. I mean, but sure, Ringrose is tough as boots.
Ringrose is tough.
He's probably bigger than Farrell. I'd say he's taller, and I'd say he's heavier.
He's not. Farrell's a big lad and he's tough.
I remember Saracens played in the RDS maybe 4 years ago, and like everyone was talking about Owen Farrell. He clearly wasn't the finished article that day.
He was 5.
Granted, yes, but like Ringrose is probably only a year or 2 older than what he was then, and they gave him a chance, and he grew into the position, and he got the experience behind him. You're not going to get any experience by play against Zebre in the Pro 12.
Well, look, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that I wouldn't play Ringrose, and I'm not saying that he shouldn't play Ringrose. I'm just saying I find it maybe that he won't, because he's got so many changes due to injury anyway, that he'd like to put him in with some real experience, and rather than next to a guy who's getting his second cap, say, if he plays McCluskey, or even Robbie Henshaw, who's he's there for a year or 2, but he's still relatively raw. So if he didn't have those options, he might, or if one of them was a 12, if there was a very experienced 12, he might play him. But Payne is an experienced guy, but he's 13.
I think having upset Munster and Connacht already this year, I think Joe's going to go the full set and upset both Leinster and Ulster by not picking Ringrose and by dropping Stuart McCluskey.
Who knows?
Anyway, we have a question in actually, and just in terms of, like, we're talking about centre options, but back row options, we'd forgotten from Mark Kennedy. I presume not the former Millwall and Liverpool starlet, who's actually from Coomine. But anyway, one question: given that CJ has actually shown himself to be up to international standard, would any of the panel agree that perhaps Jamie Heaslip should have been replaced by Ruddock last Saturday, with CJ moving to 8? In my opinion, Jamie Heaslip was looking jaded at the end of the match, and Stander was actually looking pretty fresh.
I think that Jamie Heaslip was told to do something, like he was out in the right wing. What was that about? He didn't. It's not as if he was out there hiding because he was injured.
It's not his game. Yeah, that was a weird one. I thought that at the time. Yeah, I thought that was odd.
There's, like, he had Van der Fleer is a fairly decent tackler, and he had Stander in there to carry. Maybe they were trying to experiment with Jamie Heaslip and making him fulfill roles, because that's his gig. He does what needs doing wherever it is on the pitch.
I thought it was an odd one actually, because he's not normally one of those guys who likes to move in and out along the back line, the way like a lot of other number 8s do actually play that way, but he doesn't. He's a fairly orthodox.
I've said it before that Jamie Heaslip is 32 and CJ Stander is 25 or so, maybe 26. It is inevitable.
The knives are out for Jamie. There was a full article in Joe.ie today, basically saying how long more can Ireland continue to.
But you know who owns Joe.ie, don't you? Yeah. I mean, a Munster coach's website gives out about a Leinster player. Big shocker.
Well, I was about to say that I think I've probably said this before. It's inevitable that CJ Stander will, at some stage, unless somebody comes out of the blue, replace Jamie Heaslip at 8 for Ireland. But where people are saying that it should happen now, I don't think so. Maybe after the next World Cup, or maybe after, a year before the next World Cup, depending on how Jamie goes. I mean, Jamie's contract is up at the end of next season. He could just as well head to Toulon and go, right lads, see yous, I'm going to have 2 years down there and a bit of crack, and that's Standard straight into the frame. Whether, obviously if Standard is the coming force by then, it might help Jamie make his decision to do that.
You can't go on forever.
I don't think it's right now is the time. Perhaps, will he catch him by the end of next season? Maybe he will. Maybe he won't. I don't know. But, Heaslip has still got a fair bit to offer.
I think Stander has proven himself to be certainly an international quality at least.
Oh, yeah.
Number 6.
Very impressed with him.
There's a lot. It's a different position than number 8. I haven't been impressed with him at number 8 this season.
You have, or you haven't?
I haven't. I've been impressed with him at 6, but not at 8. I mean, it's a different position.
8 is his main.
It is, yeah, and I find that weird actually because, I didn't expect to be impressed by him playing out of position, but it looks like he's better at this level. Some guys just always rise to whatever level they're at. Maybe he's one of those guys. I haven't been impressed with him at 8 this season. Have been impressed with him at 6, so don't know.
He can do them both and do them well. So.
But that's it. I mean, that's it. I mean, should he have been replaced? I don't know. We don't have access to the GPS data, for example. For all we know, he might have looked fresh, but could have been fecking knackered.
Or Heaslip could have been told to do something that we're unaware of.
Games now, I've seen him play for Ireland.
Who?
Heaslip.
Really?
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, yeah,
he was directly opposite Vinopola, and he didn't put him under pressure at all, Dave. Like, who was man of the match?
Yeah, Billy Vinopola.
Exactly. So you've got a guy who's your direct opposite man, and you're like number 8 and number 8 against each other. They probably jump against each other in the line out. They run at each other more or less from the base of a scrum. And Vinopola made yards at him practically all the time. Now we spoke about.
If the
blind
number 8 goes,
depending on which direction he goes,
it's the open side.
Okay, well he's second man in.
Blind, it's the blind side.
Well, he's second man in. He's second man in then.
Yeah.
But at the same time, Vinopola got probably through 3 tackles before he was put to ground.
Yeah, he had Sexton and all coming in to try and get him down, and 3 and 4 guys having to tackle him.
Like I think sometimes there's an element of, oh my God, you can't drop a Leinster guy for a Munster guy. You can't drop a Munster guy for a Leinster guy.
There's always going to be
the reality is
as well that there's not an element of confirmation bias about it too.
Excuse me a second. The reality is that Heaslip is now hitting 32. He can't go on forever. He had a very poor game. Now he'll probably have a great game next week. Who knows? But he had a poor game at the weekend. There are guys coming up. We know that, say, CJ is one, that he's there available. When O'Brien comes back into the fray, now I know he's out for the rest of the Six Nations, but say for the summer tour, we'll see then what way the alignment goes. Maybe O'Mahony comes back in as well.
It'll be interesting when O'Mahony, O'Brien, Van der Fleer, Heaslip, all these guys
Standard
are well,
exactly,
I'm talking about
the injured guys. Yeah,
I'm just talking about as well as Standard. Where Standard fits in. Will he be 6 over Peter O'Mahony? Will he be 8 over Jamie Heaslip? Will he be on the bench behind both of them? Will he, that'll be an interesting one, and maybe he will. Maybe maybe Jamie's days are numbered. I'm not Joe Schmidt. I'm a big Heaslip fan, obviously, and I'm sure I have some blue tinted glasses in there in the same way as lots of guys have red tinted glasses.
I know, but you
have
to be fair about it. Like, this program is supposed to be fair about it and give it.
Of
course it is.
Shit!
Lads.
Come on!
What do you mean I've got the?
I know you've never told me that.
It's not called fair talk.
We're talking about Ireland.
No, but I didn't think he was particularly bad. I didn't think he was particularly good. I didn't think he was any better or any worse than any of the rest of the players on average. But I don't think he was particularly bad. I don't think he was particularly good. I just think he was representative of the Irish performance. It was a cure-taking performance, and most of the players came out.
Did you see him do anything outstanding? Anything in the game outstanding?
Well, I only noticed him because he was standing out in the wing a lot, which I thought was weird.
Well, that's not really getting involved in the thick of the action when their main attacking force is through the centre of the park.
So imagine you'd have to query why the coach put him out in the wing.
Why is he out in the wing?
Yeah.
Like, maybe he was injured. Maybe he was hiding out there because he was injured. I don't think so, though. I think it was a coaching decision.
I have no. I mean, guys don't do things on Joe Schmidt teams that they're not told to do.
That's true.
I mean, if he's out in the wing, it's because he's told to be out in the wing.
Maybe they had some plan that they never actually got to use.
It involved having the ball, which was a big problem. No, I don't think he was particularly good. I don't think he was particularly bad. I think to be perfectly honest, he was like a lot of the players. He was pretty Magnolia.
He was the Harry Connick Jr. of number 8.
Harry Connick Jr. in big band, not quartet mode. Harry Connick Jr.'s quartet is actually
He's
quite good.
Magnolia no matter whatever he does. Anyway,
We had another query from Mark about why Toner is packing down the right hand side or the tight head side of the scrum, even though Marler did
That's a
gain
good
at least
question.
one penalty while boring in. I noticed at the time that Dev's driving position was pretty bad, with his shoulder on top of the small of Ross's back.
well, again, we've said this a load of times. The taller a guy is, the better he is in the line out, the worse he is in the scrum, is generally the rule. But there is obviously a reason they're putting him over there. Maybe it's because they don't quite have faith in. Although they do with Mike McCarthy, who's a known tight head scrummager when he was playing in the
They
against
still do
Wales.
it, yeah.
So there's obviously a strategy there. I've heard it said somebody said to me that South African teams quite often use their better scrummager on the loose head side. So, there could well be a strategic reason for doing it. Like the last few years has been all about this tight head lock. Supposed to be the big, tough scrummaging. For example, Backy's both and Victor Matfield. What way did they pack down? Is Backy's on the?
If I remember correctly, it was Matfield at 5, and the reason I know that is I think that is because Justice for Backies.
No, he always had 4 on
Yeah,
his back.
yeah.
But
Well, which side?
which side did he pack down?
That would be the orthodox side.
So
The one thing I'd say is that I have heard it said that Toner is actually a really powerful guy,
he certainly is. Yeah.
but I would question whether
He doesn't have
because
the leverage.
he has to be locked full length before he can deliver any of that power. And I don't know if he can do that in the scrum.
Yeah. So the answer is, we're not sure.
Yeah.
I know. Tough one to
I
call,
wish-
really.
I
Like,
wish I
again,
knew.
it could be a tactical thing. It could be whatever side it is they feel the ball is going to get to first, and the breakdown. Whoever's going to get to the breakdown first, they're going to give that advantage.
Could be lots of things.
Yeah. I wouldn't know why they choose to do it that way.
I've seen him play both sides quite a lot for Leinster. Like generally, if there's a what would I say, less experienced second row, he'll have Toner definitely on that side of the scrum. But if Toner and McCarthy are playing for Leinster, you'll generally have McCarthy behind the tight head. So
Maybe like we say, maybe John
Something
Fogarty's
going on.
thinking on it is, and Greg
Exists.
Feasley thinking on it is the South African method, if you like. I don't know.
who knows? Anyway,
Yeah. Good question, that.
it is a good question. We'll do some more research,
Yeah.
okay?
Anyway, there was other games in the Six Nations. Wales had a handy win over against France on Friday night.
They did, didn't they?
Yeah,
It shows you how shite France are, really.
Yeah.
yeah, it does.
They're all scrum and drang France without any actual delivery at the end. aren't they?
Scrum and drang.
Not
Very
even,
good.
if they were scrum and drang, it'd be better. But they're all, it's all noise and glory, and it's to a certain extent they're like a duck. It's all mad going
But
on
like-
underneath, but there's nothing happening on top.
Gatlin ball as well. It's all about collisions, winning collisions, getting through collisions, and that's why it seems to do well in the Northern Hemisphere, but it can't beat the Southern Hemisphere team because you saw them against Australia in the World Cup with 13 players and they couldn't bloody get through them.
See, there's the weird thing. That match was on Friday
Because
night.
they're
If on
predictable.
Saturday either of those teams was to play the All Blacks, which one would you reckon would have the greater chance of winning? France. Because France aren't scared of the All Blacks and can beat them every now and again, whereas Wales have no chance.
That French team would struggle against the All
No,
Blacks.
but you know what the French
I
are
know,
like when
yes,
they come
I
to
know,
play
yeah.
the All Blacks.
Yeah.
I don't know if
There's-
I'd agree with that one, Dave, especially after France
have
played
the
the All
greater
Blacks.
chance. I never said they'd have the better chance, I never said they would do it. But I don't know. I think Wales are far better than France. France are they're still a poor team. I mean, they're just a poor team with better PR now.
Yeah, well, the big match of the Six Nations is going to be the next one, England and Wales, and we've been flagging it since. I mean, I said it from the beginning that this is set up for England. This Six Nations, they've got the two hardest teams at home.
Well, I never thought that I'd go into a match and want the less ignorant of the coaches to win, and that minor ignoramus to be Gatland.
Yeah, well, I don't know. Eddie Jones is good value for his whatever you call it, banter.
Yeah,
Did you hear him? Actually, I heard him interviewed by some Irish.
well, he got quite fighty. I think it was
Yeah,
Pat
he was-
McCarry, wasn't it?
I
From
don't
the
know who it
from
was, but he
sports,
was.
Balls, I think.
He called him mate about 6 times, like during the course of about
And it's
one
basically
paragraph.
that's basically a Corkman saying, "I'll claim you."
Whatever it was, but he's a feisty little bugger. And he doesn't like to take a backward step, bit like Gatland himself, bit pig-headed, and likes to win. the other thing is, both of them do it to take the heat off their players.
Oh yeah,
And
Because
that's exactly what he did.
When they're getting the pressure, it means the team aren't, and that's their job.
well, this week it's been
Yeah,
all about. It's all been
Absolute
about.
disaster.
I mean, Eddie Jones. We'd say from Wednesday through to today. Today's Tuesday night. It's all
Dropping
been
bombs.
Eddie Jones all the time, and nobody's talking about England, which is which is what he wants, and he's taking the pressure all off the players completely.
Yeah.
Nobody's even discussing England selections or
It's a very un-Irish thing. Like, we're just not used to it. Very few managers, even in Gaelic sport, maybe the odd one in Gaelic, do it. But generally, none of our soccer international managers have done it. The rugby ones, even at provincial level, at national level, haven't done it. As I said, the odd GA one might, but that's about it. Whereas in the UK, it seems a far more prevalent thing. Like, every single soccer club nearly does. You know, Mourinho is an expert at it, or Ferguson.
Yeah,
It's I don't know.
England really have their swagger back under
I thought
them.
it was hilarious though. I thought it was so funny that his exact words were almost identical to the exact words that Rob Penny used after the Leinster-Munster match when Paul O'Connell accidentally swung at Dave Kearney. And he used the exact same words. The Munster fans weren't happy when I pointed that out to them.
What did he say?
Oh, he said the ball was there to be swung at. What was your man doing there with his head near the ball anyway?
Yeah, well, it turns. It's so funny you mention that because I was kind of screaming at the screen when that was, that's okay. He wasn't doing it deliberately, but it's reckless. He got him with the studs in the face and didn't stop.
Yeah.
He kept hacking.
But can
at
I
the
just
ball.
say that it just showed the difference between the two sides, that they were relentless. There was an example there, right? Might have been bordering on the side of, a little bit
was certainly
dirty
reckless.
or whatever, reckless or whatever. He more or less got away with it, got the ball. Then you had we had a line out maybe 5 or 10 metres from the line. The ball went up. Their second row got he hit the Irish guy's arm to steal the ball off him. They won the ball. If it's caught, it's a penalty. But they were willing to go the extra, mile to get it just didn't seem that we were.
We're not as streetwise.
That Irish team is this Irish team is a soft touch.
It seems that way.
This is the third game in a row where things have been done and nobody's done anything. I mean, nobody has. I mean, we gave all sorts of. We were very critical of Jamie Heaslett for getting sent off against New Zealand that time. We were critical of Paul O'Connell. That was
the only Irish player to ever get a red card in history.
We're critical of other players who've done things. Alan Quinlan, maybe Dennis Leamy, Trevor Brennan has done stuff in the past as well. And the Irish way is to be quite critical of them. And possibly it's right, but at the same time, it doesn't win you many matches. It might win you friends, but friends don't win games.
That's it. Yeah.
Yeah, but like worse Irish teams have always had one thing, and that's that they'd fight for you.
Yeah.
And like we mentioned a few weeks ago about Rory Best not seem to be as vocal. And if you're not getting anywhere with the referee, and then you take matters
Take it
into
to the
your
bottom
own
of the
hand.
ruck.
And I know there's 100 cameras at the game.
But there's got to be somewhere daylight can't see.
Or
You can't take all off.
You just be as hard and as ruthless as they are. You know what I mean? Like if there's a ball on the ground, you just fly hack it. Paul O'Connell did it. He didn't care about,
Teammate safety.
Exactly. Well, do you know what I mean?
Whatever.
You see, that's the thing. I mean, the game of rugby doesn't really care about player safety, to be perfectly honest. I mean, if it did, it would do stuff about this, and it hasn't. It's had opportunities to in the past. So Eddie Jones is quite right, and it became a bit of a circus afterwards. At the end of the day, though, it didn't really affect the result because they were sin binned anyway. There was a man sin binned for the remainder of the match. I think it was Brown, wasn't he sin binned for being offside?
No, it was
Danny Kerr.
Danny Kerr was sin binned for being offside. So they were down to 14 for the remainder of the game anyway, and they still didn't
won.
concede.
Yeah.
So it was a big issue. But compare him to say Gatland, and it's going to be like a war of the words in the media for the next 10 days. We'll say.
Get the popcorn out and sit back for that one. Anyway.
It'll be like what's the famous speech? They come over here, they stole our coal, and they have our holiday and all this kind of stuff.
They ate our women and slept with our food.
Yeah,
or whatever it was.
But it'll be like that. But at the end of the day, I think Wales are going to win. Because I think Gatland. I think Eddie Jones is a good coach. He's a better coach than Lancaster. But that team isn't a better team than the team that got beaten by Wales, or not well beaten, but got beaten by Wales in the World Cup.
I think it
because
is.
it's pretty much the same team.
Yeah, but they don't have any rugby league lads hanging around. In fairness, he wasn't the one that
Nothing
lost
to do
in that
with him.
game. No, but I think he really got to win. Anyway, did anything happen in the Pro 12 last weekend by any
Well,
chance?
actually, we had a nice handy win against Zebra. We got off to a flying start. Luke McGrath did his quarterback sneak
Yeah.
to get over in the corner.
It's a very clever sneak as well. If you actually look at it, you can see him eyeing up Semenzato, waiting for him to take that step, and the moment his weight transfers, he's gone. It's actually classic scrum half play.
You actually had to take a couple of steps. It wasn't just a dive over. You had to step around the ruck and then dive over.
And then launch his turbo booster. It was good. It was good 6 feet out.
It was a great little.
And he's not 6 feet.
No, he's about 5'9", but he's feisty.
Yeah.
Then Dominic Ryan got one. Then Adam Byrne.
Actually, it
got
has to be
another
said,
little
he's a
one.
player I've been critical of in the past. I thought Dominic Ryan was excellent. I
Yeah,
thought he was really,
I was going to
really
say that
good.
he was
I thought
really good.
superb.
He's kind of come into his own because he's been played consistently at 6.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know,
Yeah.
that's his best. Always been his best position.
I think this is his best season for Leinster. He's played his best rugby
since
for the
2011.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's played his best rugby for the longest period of time,
Mm.
and I don't think it's any coincidence that it's because he's playing in pretty much the same position all season. I thought he was excellent.
Yeah, definitely big ups to him, and he's got out of the habit of just getting the ball and running at somebody. You know, doing everything, whether he has the ball or he doesn't have the ball.
Yeah,
he
he's
wants to smash
decided that
someone.
he's learned that there's another kind of sidestep
kinda-
other than the Maori one.
Yeah.
He's kind of grown a bit away from that, which is good. Levy was good at 7
Yeah.
too, and Geordie Murphy was a bit of a revelation in
He
8.
played very well.
Yeah. Well, I think the thing is, Jordan
Suppose
Murphy
who
is
are they
for
playing?
a start. If you pick guys in the right positions,
Well, there's a lot of
You've
club
got-
players playing for for
Yeah.
Zebra at
Well,
the same time.
I mean,
so
Jordy Murphy is a number 8.
yeah,
Play him at number 8 and he plays well. Dominic Ryan is a number 6. You play him at number 6, he plays well. And Dan Levy obviously is number 7. Jordy Murphy has had to suffer some slings and arrows. Not
He's had a bit of a
Well, it must be
season.
very difficult
Yeah.
for him. In fairness,
he's in and out, yeah.
He, 4 months ago he's playing in front of 80,000 people in the World Cup in the quarter final,
Mhm.
and add 4 months to that he's playing against
800,000
Zebre,
people.
800 people in
Yeah.
Zebre.
But
I think there's been a lot of comment about him that I think people think he's too small to play in the position.
well, see, this is the problem. He is a fabulous 8,
Mhm.
but at international level, which are Billy Vunipolas and all these guys, is he the physical specimen to be able to play 8?
Do you know who he's the same size as?
Richie McCaw?
No.
He is though.
Yeah, well, he might be, but he's the same size as CJ Stander.
Is he?
Yeah, yeah.
That's down to 6'3".
No, there's nothing between them. I mean, you're having flag paper. If one of them went into the shower wet, that would change the scales, kind of thing. I don't think he's as physically developed as Stander is. Stander looks hard. I'm not
does.
sure that Jamie or Geordie does.
He's tough lad.
No,
though.
but he is tough.
He's
I
very
thought
tough.
I thought he played. I thought 3 of them played well as a unit because
But-
I think one of the reasons for that is because they were playing in their best positions.
What they've tried to do though is turn him into an open side because he's the same size as Richie McCaw. So, Richie McCaw is on the tall side for an open side. In fairness, but has that worked? I'm not convinced it has. So
No.
I still think he's probably better at 8 or even 6. I think 7 is while he can play 7 to a high level, probably not quite international level.
Yeah.
So he's fallen between a few stools, which is a bit like Madigan.
Mhm.
His versatility is killing him. The fact that he can play in all three positions to a high standard is kind of killing him, and he's not getting game time in one position. And with Jack Conan and Jamie Heaslip at Leinster, is he going to get much of a look in at 8
Conan is. Hopefully we'll have Conan back fit again
for Friday?
for Friday because I think we need him actually because Ospreys are always hard team
He
anyway.
twisted his ankle, did he?
Yeah, he had a tightness in his ankle after the captain's run.
Ospreys are not only a hard team to play, but this is kind of their season-defining game. If they don't win this game, they could be out of Europe.
Yeah.
It's that serious for them. They could actually lose this game and win every other game and still be out of Europe. So this, for them, is their, it's a must-win game. So it leaves us a bit vulnerable. And we've looked very good in the RDS. I was just looking at it actually. We have only lost once in the Pro 12 in the last 3 years in the RDS.
To Ospreys.
No. the Dragons
All right.
a year ago, and the time before that was Ulster.
Mhm.
Now, okay, we've lost in the Heineken Cup, but once in Matt O'Connor's reign, we lost in the RDS. We don't lose there often, and it's time to keep that wagon rolling next week. Because
How did you feel Cathal Marsh did?
I actually was quite impressed with him. But having said that, he's playing against a team of
Yeah.
club players
Club
that
players,
have been thrown together.
Oh yeah, no, I wouldn't. I'm not saying I'm not saying that any performance in this can be very much read into it, but I do
He's a
like
good
to
player.
He's a good player, and I like to see him developing. And
Well, I felt sorry from when over in Wasps when we went over there into Coventry, and he had a shocking game.
deep end stuff though.
But it was, and he clearly wasn't ready for it.
Mhm.
Like maybe he needs more games at the lower level of the Pro 12 than chucking him into against Wasps, which is clearly one of the better teams in the European Cup this season.
But like he's shown enough to be considered a backup, certainly a Pro 12 backup to Sexton, because let's face it, we're not going to have Ian Madigan next season.
I wonder what they'll do. I wonder if they'll go out and sign. I don't know. It's going to be hard.
They could.
But I mean, the rest of the team played well. I mean, Adam Byrne, I thought, took his try beautifully. I don't think it matters who you were playing it against. The way he took that try, because
awesome.
that was a superb physical exhibition.
Yeah, and he scored against Ebre a couple of weeks ago, didn't
Yeah,
he?
he did. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was
So
a
he-
nice try too.
Yeah,
So
good
he's
strong power.
he's obviously in a bit of form at the moment as well, and like they're doing
Keep
that
him
little
rolling.
program on Leinster TV
Yeah,
about
yeah.
all the academy guys. It's obviously giving him good confidence.
Nice to see another. Like, I mean, Sean O'Brien has been the if you like, the flag for the youth's development system for a long time. It's nice to see another guy coming up through that system.
Because there was an awful lot mentioned about, like probably one generation was Shane Horgan, and the next one was only Shane Horgan, and then it was Sean O'Brien, and the two of them were kind of heralded.
Yeah.
Really, they were the only two for a long time. The rest of them came the traditional route, but it's actually good to see.
Marching our traditional route.
Well, ironically, I've like the academy program, which, by the way, if you haven't seen it, I'd watch it on YouTube. It's very good, actually. It's quite for what it is. 3 out of the 4 guys actually came up the youth system. Dooley, Tom Daly, and Byrne, and they're 3 guys that 2 of them have developed really well into the senior team. Tom Daly's captain in the Irish Sevens team, and the 4th guy who started off in the youth system and then moved to the school system, who's on this week, is Josh van der Fleer, and he's an Ireland international now. So something's been done right in those systems.
So just going back to Leinster's game, like Dan Levy scored a try. We tried and tried to get our final try bonus point try in the last couple of minutes.
It's always satisfying when you get it in the last minute.
Levy went
Left it
over.
late.
Levy left it late.
But we trusted the driving maul, and it hadn't been working this season very well.
It hadn't worked on Saturday either, isn't until that one. But
This is where our driving maul turns around, lads.
You only need one to work, and it did, and we got the bonus point, and we got a bonus point with a team that was a really heartening team. I mean, Nick McCarthy, for example, was on the pitch at the end.
And if you look at the pack,
another young guy.
Pack was I think Dominic Ryan was the oldest player in the pack.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
I mean, he, I've stuff in my fridge older than I'm not joking. So that was heartening. It was good to see. Now you have to put it in context. Like we said, it's against some club players from Viadana and yada yada who haven't played a whole lot together. So it's not like let's not.
They had an awful lot of permit players in the team, all right.
They're not. They're not going to be next year's Lions or anything like that. But
And Ian McKinley looked rusty.
Yeah,
he did a bit. Yeah,
he looked like a guy who hadn't played at that level for a while. Although you could see 1 or 2 things he did. I mean, he left. I can't remember who it was. Absolutely flailing in the mud at one point, just with a step and a burst of acceleration.
Yeah, but he didn't get anywhere with it. He passed it to somebody and they fumbled it, I think.
Yeah.
But anyway.
But you could see the instincts are still there. They just need sharpening. Maybe this will be the first of a run.
Maybe there's a guy that would be worth bringing back.
McKinley. We'd have to see a lot more of him.
I suppose.
Yeah, I mean, would you bring him
He
back?
had it. He had it all.
Oh, he did.
He was ahead of Ian
Yeah,
Madigan.
he did. Yeah.
4 or 5 years ago.
Would you bring him back based on last Sunday, for example? No. So he needs more games. So you can't really say one guy I do think that has done well over the period the Six Nations period. It's a guy that we actually signed to do well over the Six Nations period was Zane Kirshner. I thought I think he played very, very well over this last couple of 4 or 5 games, which is kind of what we signed him for. It's about time. Some would say it's about time he started delivering on it.
Yeah,
agreed. Yeah, but like he seems to get a bad press. Anything that can go wrong, blame Zane. And he's not really the one that's necessarily the one to be blamed.
No, I don't. I don't necessarily think so either. There have been times when he hasn't necessarily been in form.
I think what people wanted him to be was another Nasiwa, but Nasiwa's clearly a once-in-a-generation player. Even if someone like Brian O'Driscoll...
And now he's back.
Yeah.
Well, he's, not
like
quite...
He's never been away.
He's not quite the same player as he was. He's a few years older. And
half the player he was is
but I know, but
good,
it's when you're talking when he was at his peak was, say, 09, 10 and 11. And, even going back when you hear O'Driscoll saying...
12 and 13.
Well, I think he was kind of getting a little bit over. But my point is that O'Driscoll would quote him as being the best player he's ever played with. Like Heaslip, these guys can't go on and continue to sustain the same level of performance, for
well into their
years
30s.
and years and years. They just can't. And I think when they saw we signed Kirshner, they wanted him or they expected him to be the same standard and quality as Nasiwa, and he clearly isn't. But
he's 30 times as good, Jason, because he has 30 caps, and he's in Nasiwa only has 1.
I think for 20 seconds as well as that. I think that's the word. Those 20 seconds are the best 20 seconds in the history of Leinster rugby, as far as I'm concerned. I think what people forgot, people saw we signed a Springbok fullback, and that was great, and we did, and he is. But he was an orthodox fullback in a fairly orthodox Springbok team. That was basically a Blue Bulls team and played like the Blue Bulls, which was a very orthodox,
kicky hoofy,
power based game, and that's what he was. But that's what you need during this time. You need a guy who's not going to do anything stupid, because what are we up to now in terms of points from return from this period?
14 out of 15.
14 out of 15. When we were at our best, we were taking 19 out of 20, 20 out of 20, 18 out of 20. So that's what you need.
Well, we'll see on Friday.
Yeah.
That'll be either.
And there's the other element as well,
it's
something you often say, Jay, that when the internationals come back, and the if you like the second selection can say to the internationals, here, we've left you this position in the league, we looked after things, now you go on and take it to the next level.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's true. And you're going to have to strip the jersey off me back.
No, I think we can afford new jerseys, John.
So the win keeps us in second on 53 points. So we just won behind Connacht, and they had a nice handy win against the Ospreys.
Controversial win.
Controversial, but they still would have won.
The controversy reigns. Steve Tandy has come out this afternoon claiming that World Rugby told him that the try should never have stood.
Well, looking at it, I was going, how the hell is that,
No quotes from World Rugby though.
How the hell is that a try? I've seen stuff since that kind of says, well, if he had one knee down in the tackle, that's technically being held in the tackle, and then somebody else said that the fact that he didn't get fully back to his feet meant it was a double movement, and you're getting lost in technicalities. By the spirit of the law,
if the referee believes that he was
that
held,
should have been a try,
then he had to release the ball before he moved on.
Yeah.
The question isn't about the decision. The decision is fairly clear. The referee believed he was held, so it was a double movement. The question is whether he was held.
What goes round comes round, and
Connacht that's true. Connacht have been on the receiving end.
If you think back 12 months to the game in Cardiff against the Blues, Leighton Hodges.
Pat Lam got a big smack on the wrist after that.
A big smack on the wrist for a series of decisions that were considerably more egregious than this.
And I can remember a match against the Ospreys.
Against us a few times.
I remember a match against Connacht and the Ospreys in the Ospreys. There was, in the last minute of the game, Connacht were leading. They were deemed to be, there was a dropout. One of their players was deemed to be ahead of the kicker for the dropout, and a penalty was given against them, and they
scored. I thought that was for wearing a loud shirt in a built-up area or something.
The thing about the decision was, I actually think it was the wrong decision, but it was a decision you could see why he made. It wasn't a crazy. It was not like George Clancy pulled something out of his ass and said, "Oh, that's why it's not a try." You could see the process behind the decision he made. Now, whether you agree with it or not is another thing, but you could certainly see the process behind it. It's not like Leighton Hodges, who was just
give me an excuse.
I mean, John Coltrane would marvel at the innovation and free form approach Leighton Hodges took to the laws that day.
Fair enough. Having said that, Ospreys were poor. Connacht were good.
Yeah.
They did enough to win. The fact that they'd stole the Ospreys bonus point is what that try meant, really, rather than anything else. Because the Ospreys didn't look like scoring, they didn't look in great form, and I hope they carry that form forward for at least another week.
They're getting 2 guys back, I think.
I'd say they get a bit more than 2.
Well, according to the guys who I've seen named as being released,
Right.
2 of them were Ospreys. However many more they
Okay.
get, I don't know, but that's what I saw.
Well, you'd have to think that they'll get a few more, although then again, Warren Gatland is nothing if not cautious.
Yeah.
So they may not. I'd be happy to take any advantage we can get against them.
Well, one Welsh team that did beat an Irish team the weekend was Cardiff.
Yeah.
I was watching a bit of that
Bit of a
match and
shocker.
they
I
were
saw it all.
leading
Oh, yeah.
when I turned off. And all of a sudden I turned it back on to get the result. And
Ulster were, for 2/3 of the match, Ulster were well up, and then there was a drinks break, and somebody brought on some sleepy nighty night, and Ulster had a few good glugs of that and conceded 10 points on the bounce.
And, let's face it, lads, for the last 2 years, Cardiff have been the coming force. I've been saying it. They'll eventually prove me right if I keep saying it,
I'd say Cardiff will win the European Cup the same year Scotland win
the World Cup.
the World Cup. It's Cardiff did well to beat Ulster. I mean, but
It is, but they played well.
that Ulster team has a mental flaw, and I've said it for a few years now. There's something just not. They've good players.
They're not playing well at the moment.
But there's something just not right with that team. I think Les Kiss has to go over the summer. Has to do some significant rebuilding on
I
that.
think he has though. Hasn't he got a few lined up?
Oh, he has. Yeah. Kutsia's coming in. Pietau's coming in.
But the worrying
Treadwell
thing,
is coming in.
the worrying thing about it is that they had Paddy Jackson and Ruan Pienaar on
Yeah,
the team,
yeah.
who are their main men. Like that's their main pivot, and European
Yeah.
Cup final if they were in one, those 2 lads would be playing.
If it was Paul Marshall and Ian Humphries, you could kind of understand it.
Exactly, you wouldn't be expecting them to win, but with those guys, so I think it was a bit, and they've been doing it for a while since that loss against Munster in January. They've had a few kind of dodgy wins. I think Glasgow they were lucky to struggle past.
They're certainly stuttering, aren't they? I mean, they were leading the league at one stage, and they've slid down to 4th now.
I fancied them for top 2, but
They were leading the league
don't
and
anymore.
playing well.
Yeah, and like now they're I think they're 8 points behind Connacht in 4th.
Yeah.
But the way the other results all fell at the weekend, they've remained in 4th.
Mhm.
But the guys behind are slowly
caught up.
catching them. Yeah.
I fancy Glasgow for a late surge now.
Well, they have those 2 games in hand.
Yeah.
Question is, one of them's against us, and I think the other's against Munster.
No,
So
Zebre.
Is it Zebre?
Oh,
I thought
yeah.
one of them was
Yeah.
against Munster.
No, Munster of Cardiff.
All right. Well, I'll tell you, the game against us won't be a gimme. The game against Zebre might be.
The game against Zebre will be. Munster have a few easy fixtures coming up too. Between
But they struggled against Zebre,
They did.
against Treviso.
Yeah,
at the
I watched that
weekend.
match, and I tell you,
I didn't.
I would say that they took their points and got the hell out of Dodge with as quick as possible.
16-13.
Yeah. That was
Keighley only got the penalty in
last
the last
minute
couple of
penalty.
minutes.
Yeah, it wasn't pretty, and it was up in the air as to who was the better side right up to that penalty.
So yeah, I was just watching against the Head last night, and they had they kind of gave a synopsis of and they had Salili,
Saili.
Francis Saili.
and they said he scored his 2nd try of the campaign for Munster. I said, God, they've paid all this money for an All Black centre, and we have a young
Scored
kid,
one
Adam
try.
Byrne, who's coming through, who scored 2
In
tries.
fairness, that was also from his 2nd pass of the season.
That's true too.
Harsh but fair. But they can get back on the wagon. They've 3
They-
relatively easy games before they meet us in Lansdowne
They've
Road.
moved up to 5th now.
Well, having said that, one of them is Cardiff away, which Ulster just proved is not that easy. So if you're stuttering, Cardiff away is not where you want to be going. They've also got the Dragons at home, and I think they've another Italian game, and then they're into Lansdowne Road to.
They play Connacht and they
meet us.
play us.
That's after us, I think it's Connacht.
So, well,
Yeah.
it's hard to tell, but I mean, there's 2 matches potentially that they could gain points on or lose points
There's a
on.
cycle of interpros, all in a kind of a clutch. I
Yeah.
mean, we play
In
Connacht,
April, yeah.
we play Ulster, we play Munster. Those are 3 games that are absolutely going to determine seasons for all of us. Munster play Connacht. Ulster play Connacht. Ulster play Connacht, don't they?
Let's play Connacht in Ulster.
There's a real that cycle of games is huge in terms of determining. I mean, a team could win all those games and end up top, stretching out in the lead of the Pro 12, or a team could lose them and find themselves really, really scrambling to qualify for Europe.
Mm-hmm.
I
think Ospreys in Edinburgh I fancy are going to be 7th and 8th is my current prediction, which may change. Having said that, we have a pretty hard until our last game against
we have a tough
Treviso.
run, yeah. I'm really glad we have that Treviso game last game.
Well, if we can go into that a point ahead of people, we're home and hosed, because if we need 5 points out of that, we're getting them. But
please don't say things like that.
No.
Oh, Macker gods, we apologise.
We're getting them. We're getting them. Like a full Leinster team if we needed one. Going out against Treviso in the RDS. Come on. Mock our gods be damned.
This guy just hates Leinster.
We nearly blew it last year, but anyway. What was it last year? 10-0 or something? But we looked shit doing it.
That was the last throws of the
Matt O'Connor's reign, yeah. But like the run Connacht have is particularly tough. However, you can see them winning some of those games. Like they do have one Italian game left, but the rest of their games are all against top.
Well, they have us down in Galway.
Yeah.
The last few years now, we've probably lost more than we've won down there.
Well, I was looking at that. We're 3 out of the last 5 down there we've won, and 2 out of the last 5 in Ravenhill. As far as I know, they're kind of happening in different seasons. But we have, I thought our record was actually worse than when I went back over it.
We always seem to lose in Connacht, but we don't.
We actually don't.
Yeah.
We lost last year by a point. We got hammered under Joe Schmidt there a few years ago. I think it was 12 or 13.
Oh, we got our asses handed to us on
34-6, I think it was something ridiculous like that. But they were the only 2 losses. I think the rest we won. So we shall see. It'll be by that stage we'll have played Glasgow in our catch-up game, and if we can take that, we're laughing. In fact, if we can win against the Ospreys, we could possibly just win our home games from then on and still be top 2. So we shall see.
So next week's fixtures, we play the Ospreys. Obviously, we kind of briefly spoke about that. Munster play the Dragons. Got to think that's a home win there.
At home. I have to think they're going to win.
Ulster plays Zebre. They should get their road back on the show.
They should get a losing bonus point at least out of that.
Are they away or at home?
Ulster at home.
No, well then.
I would expect Ulster to fill their boots.
Connacht travel over to Edinburgh.
That'll be a tough one.
That could be a tricky one
for Connacht. Edinburgh are a bit like the Scarlets. They've become a very difficult team to beat.
They're not very good, but they're hard to beat.
They can't score tries, but they don't concede them either. So that'll be
just going through all of the fixtures
it's actually both ourselves and Connacht have the 2 difficult fixtures.
Yeah, I'm just going through all the fixtures here. It's actually, say, from our point of view, all of our rivals have easy assignments. Scarlets play Treviso. Ulster plays Zebre. Munster Dragons and Glasgow play Cardiff.
In Glasgow.
Yeah, or Kilmarnock.
Yeah, or Kilmarnock. Yeah, you'd have to think that those are all going to be wins for our rivals. So we got to get one too. This is kind of a must win for both teams,
The only thing I'd say about that is at least Cardiff will be used to the pitch.
Yeah.
In Rugby Park, because it's a 4G pitch, so it might reduce some of the travelling shock. But Cardiff won't try a leg anyway. They never do.
We'll see.
Well, anyway, boys, thanks as ever, and thanks a million for watching. Cheers.